Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this evening's meeting of the Livingston County Board of Commissioners. First item on the agenda is a prayer from our Commissioner, Doug Eiserman.
Yes, in that the pledge is happening right after this, I'd ask you to stand with me as we say a prayer also. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. Thank you for each person that's here. Thank you for each person in Livingston County. We just ask for humility today and wisdom as we make decisions that affect everyone. We just ask that your hand will be upon our county and that your blessing will be upon each one of us tonight for Christ's sake. Amen.
Amen. Now with Bob Bazat, Representative Bob Bazat, lead us in the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, we have the roll call, please.
Commissioner Helserman,
Here.
Commissioner Domas,
Here.
Commissioner Sample,
Here.
Commissioner Nakagiri,
Here.
Commissioner Dreck,
Here.
Commissioner Deaton.
Here.
Commissioner Smith is absent, Commissioner Fiani,
Here.
and Commissioner Gross.
Here.
Quorum is present.
I move to approve the agenda as presented. Yanni?
Second, Sample. Are there any comments or questions at all?
Commissioner Domas, we cannot hear you. Is your mic on?
I bet this is going to help. How's that?
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Nakagiri?
Yeah, I have a question regarding item number 10 on the agenda. My question is, do we intend to take a vote on a resolution with respect to the Michigan Auto Insurance Reform Act? If so, board rules are that resolutions that bypass committee, to get them on the agenda would require 2/3 of the members to approve.
So your question was, do we intend to vote on something this evening?
Yes.
This is listed here as a discussion item, and it will be a discussion item until and if board decides to do differently. How come everybody's so quiet? Is that satisfactory, Commissioner?
Yeah, I would say yes.
Thank you. The next item is we've already, I'm sorry. All those in favor of the approval of the agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? We'll move on to correspondence. I believe we have any correspondence. There is no correspondence this evening to. And now we'll move to call to the public. Is there anyone in the public who wishes to be heard?
Mr. Chair, I do have several cards here. We will start with Randy Clausen from Howell, followed by April Brown.
Hi.
Is this turned on then, right? Thank you. I'm back. I just want you to know how pleased I was with those of you who attended the Rosa Parks Transit Equity Day. And it was an amazing, positive experience for the people that were there that told about how the LET system was working in their particular part of the county. They were very positive about what was going on as some of the townships were in special agreements with LETs. I want you to know that both Howell and Brighton declared February 4th an official 2023 Rosa Parks Transit Equity Day. And we honored Rosa Parks for the equity that she in our history that she made for public transportation. And it was a privilege to be a part of that and to hear the various comments that were being made. So I was also at the Livingston Connect and at the Community Connect and the Livingston Link Up and talked to many people there. And a better bus system, an improved bus system, an adequate bus system is on everybody's hearts. And so there are people who we talked to that are going to start working more closely with the Transportation Coalition. And we're going to see if we can't have an adequate bus system sooner. It's good what we have, but it's not adequate yet. So the other thing I want to say is that I appreciated Mr. Heisemann's prayer because he prayed for every person in Livingston County. And sometimes we see the numbers, like I can say 25% of the households can't make ends meet, but those are persons. Those aren't numbers, those are persons. And I'm glad that that prayer brought those persons to your hearts and that your choices that you make, and you make many important choices. I'm just amazed at all the different things that you know about all the different things, but it's important that we keep the persons in our mind and particularly the disadvantaged persons, because that 24% is a lot of people. So thank you for all that you do. Remember, the older people are getting older and we're going to need transportation. So carry on and keep the people and the older people in mind. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
We're going to go to Brian Harrison from Rockford, Michigan, followed by April Brown.
Thank you for the audible on the change in order. Good evening, commissioners. It's great to be here tonight. My name is Brian Harrison. I work with AdvisaCare Home Health Care. We're a home health care agency servicing the state of Michigan as well as Arizona and Nevada. And we are here tonight to talk about the discussion item that is the Auto Insurance Reform Act resolution request. First of all, thanks for adding it to the discussion table for today's agenda. We very much appreciate that. Over the last 2 years, myself and many others have been advocating at the state level to amend some of the changes our state took in 2019 to alter our auto insurance as it is in our state. Now, doing this work, we did recognize that there was quite a bit of disparity that could have been going on at any given point, as is similar with other industries. So that being said, we don't believe that all of the changes put forth in the 2019 reform are ill or misguided or ill-willed. There are several significant challenges, however, that make even policies purchased today for unlimited medical coverage not able to be utilized should any of us in this room this evening, heaven forbid, not get into a car accident. One of the major provisions of the 2019 law was a 45% reduction in services that a home health care provider, such as ourselves, can charge and reimburse for services. Home health care is a very simple business, meaning we provide a caregiver into the home, we pay that caregiver an hourly wage, and we then bill that insurance company an hourly wage for that service. And so in 2019, one of the things that we were faced with is before the pandemic even, our typical charge was on average around $30 an hour. That was an industry norm. to send in a caregiver to serve individuals who have traumatic brain injuries, spinal cord injuries, and other catastrophic ailments following, again, a significant car accident in our state. And as of such a result of these reforms, our reimbursements now have been literally driven to $16.50 an hour. Now, that's us as an organization, that's us as a company. And so if you think about the way I explained it to my mother-in-law, actually, is if her husband, who's an electrician, and their company sustained or took a 45% reduction, the hourly rate that they get to send my father-in-law, who's an electrician, into the home would not be sustainable to pay his wage. And so we, in an industry, are faced with the same predicament. And so as we stand and sit here this evening, again, there are people now who are purchasing auto insurance policies in Michigan that do not have a care network of providers to serve them should there be a need. And so what we're asking the commission to do is simply join the other 47 counties across Michigan who have also said that we need to do something to protect these consumers and give them, that are now choosing this unlimited coverage option, coverage that they should and be able to cash in on. Again, heaven forbid they need to. And so again, we're not asking to undo the law. We're not asking to take things back to the way it was before the reform. We're simply making sure, wanting to make sure that people who are buying a coverage can use that coverage should they need it. And that's what this resolution does. And so out of those 47 counties, that makes up 79% of our state's population is represented by those individuals. My time is up, but thank you very much, commissioners. I appreciate your time this evening and look forward to the continued discussion.
Thank you for being here this evening.
Of course.
April Brown, followed by Laszlo.
And that's why I tag in. I want to talk more. My name's April. I'm sorry. I'm also with AdvisaCare Home Health. I had the opportunity to be here and speak before most of you. There are a few new faces tonight, but thank you. I want to talk about the human aspect and what has happened with this. Our post-2019 survivors, any one of you gets in a car accident on the way home and catastrophic injury, you're okay in the hospital, but there's been such a fallout that over 100 companies have closed throughout Michigan. So there's no safety net for people that need that home care. Every day, I get at least one phone call that I have to say no to. That's the hardest thing that I've ever had to do. I'm a respiratory therapist by trade, and saying no to people is not easy, but we can't afford to take care of them. There's way too many expenses that go into, it's basically a hospital at home. I brought a little list here of just in the last 4 weeks, the calls I've had to say no to. A 50-year-old with a severe traumatic brain injury, needs help with all of his ADLs, can't brush his teeth, go to the bathroom, just the basic life, things we don't think about, we just do. A 14-year-old, severe traumatic brain injury and a spinal cord injury with a tracheostomy. He has been weaned off the ventilator, but he remains in the hospital because there's no care for him at home. 70-year-old traumatic brain injury, spinal cord injury, also requiring 24/7 care, remains in the hospital. I have a 19-year-old severe traumatic brain injury. He broke both his legs and his arms, and he requires 24/7 care, remains in inpatient rehab. A 30-year-old severe traumatic brain injury, spinal cord injury. She was a pediatric ICU nurse. I said was, man, I still want to say is, because she's one of us, right? It could happen to anyone. On a ventilator, not able to go home. I have an 8-year-old severe traumatic brain injury, spinal cord injury, on the vent, tube fed, requires 24/7 care, not able to go home. Lastly, I have a 45-year-old spinal cord injury from T1 to T6, multiple wounds. He's on a bowel program, pretty catastrophic, needs the 24/7 care also, not unable to go home. There's no care. So we all continue to pay for these policies, but there's no care. Sure, we're still there, but we can't help the post-2019s. And we're prayerful that the pre-2019s will be helped with the Supreme Court. ruling that they're supposed to rule on early March. It's humanity. It's not always popular to do the right thing, but the right thing is to take care of each other. And we've failed. We've failed miserably. And for 2 years, we've been doing this. Just pleading for some help and support with a resolution that we can send to Lansing to say Livingston County, we have many clients in your county. We'll be okay. And I know you keep telling me to shut up, but
No, I didn't. I would never use that language.
well, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Laszlo Saleh from Hamburg, followed by Candy.
Good evening. Thanks for letting me talk tonight. Some of you will remember me, and some of you are going to get to know me. I was a survivor. 2012 on March, I was injured in a catastrophic motorcycle versus SUV. She had a mistake. But my life went in less than 10 minutes. When I started, I was a fully active, capable educator in this county, in this district, and was being recruited to be a professor at Mott. I served 18 deployments in over 18 years in the military, both from the Marine Corps and in the CIA. I was a very capable man. Besides my teaching full-time, I also had part-time jobs that I had worked with. I coached. Now, because of my brain injury and my physical injuries I suffered, I'm not able to do that. My brain injury caused me to have uncontrollable issues, seizures, where I have 24-hour care. That's being cut. I paid my bill. We prayed for the people of our county, right? Not long after that bill was changed and they started cutting all the rates, I sat at a memorial across the street from our state capitol for 10 individuals, 10 Michiganders who have passed because of their care has shifted. It's not a make-believe story. You can look it up. How many have since that day passed that we're not even talking about? I had 14 corrective surgeries in 10 years, 2 this year. Of those 14, 10 of them were considerably dangerous. I have 2 more to come, which they don't think they're going to do them because of situations from previous ones. How would you like this? Since the day when they changed this, they've cut me off. They don't pay. I have to pay $500 an hour for my lawyer to go to court. We go to court and we won right here in Livingston County. The insurance company would not bend. They said no. It then was Andary case was listed on the Supreme Court and says you cannot change the standing of what they have until we have our hearing in March. The insurance company looked at the Supreme Court ruling and said, forget about you. We're not doing it. It went back to another county court right here in Livingston County, and the judge heard it again and again. They ruled in my favor. And they have yet to pay. The law, really. When the Supreme Court, when a judge sitting in Livingston County tells an individual, you need to do this, and they decide, well, we're not going to do it. And my only recourse is to hire again and go back to court. I make $27,800 and some dollars on my disability right now, and I'm paying $500 an hour to fight for something that I paid for and didn't lose. Is my time up?
Not quite. Give me 5 seconds. I'll give you 5 seconds.
Oh, give me 5 more seconds.
No. I was going to give you 5 seconds to finish up.
Oh, what I'm saying is, when she said, look at the people, this is a face in your county. And I'm not going to go away. As much as they try to make us die, I'm not going away. You'll keep seeing me. I'll give you the right to make your right the choice.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Candy from Hamburg. Candy, I'll let you pronounce your last name. Cutie, thank you.
Hi, I'm Laszlo's caregiver, his main caregiver. Last time I was here in September and spoke, and I mainly spoke, there's the two main issues. There's a lot of issues, but the two biggest issues are the family attendant care being limited to 8 hours and the drop in rates for all the providers. So last time I talked a lot about how it affected the family caregiving. So most of you heard that. I want to address that again, but from a little bit different angle. One of the examples I gave was all of his family lives out of state. Since his accident, his 4 siblings will have nothing to do with him because they say he's crazy. So only his parents speak to him. They live by the Pennsylvania border. We go there once a month, and because of the distance, and his father's in a nursing home, his mother's ill too, in their 80s, we stay 4 to 5 days. Agencies can't take him there. So that means he either never gets to see his parents alive again, or I have to take him and not get paid, which that's a win for the insurance company, a loss for us, because I go 4 or 5 days, they don't have to pay, but 8 hours a day, 16 hours a day, they're off. The other reason I think they want to cut to the 8 hours, which is something I feel very strongly needs to be fixed. At some point, he's going to need the agencies to come in, but not right now. So why do that at this point in his life? Another reason is a lot of people don't want strangers in their home. They don't want it disrupting them being part of all their family gatherings and stuff and their friends over. So what the insurance company is figuring is, well, a lot of people, they're going to continue to do it because they don't want strangers in their home. Another win for the insurance company. They get the families doing it without getting paid. Then the big one, which he touched on a little bit, the legal fees. The legal fees in many people's cases with family attendant care comes from the money they're getting for family attendant care. When he first was injured, they didn't pay attendant care, they didn't pay mileage reimbursement, they paid most doctors, most meds, but nothing that put any money in his pocket. They didn't pay his lost wages. He wasn't working. At that point, he's not collecting Social Security, so he has no money. We had to hire an attorney. First round was roughly $150,000. It cost us just to get the benefits. 2019, they cut off his benefits again. No word, just stopped making payments. Had to hire an attorney again. That round was about $24,000. Now that the new law passed, they cut it back to the 8 hours again, stopped paying a lot of the stuff. We had to hire an attorney again. Right now, we've estimated it's probably, if it doesn't go through trial, we're looking at close to $200,000 this round. So you're looking at roughly $400,000 for 10 years. So I have to put aside $3,500 or so a month just to keep it aside to be able to pay legal fees. If they're only paying 8 hours a day and family members don't have this money, he doesn't make $35,000 a year on his disability. That means we cannot hire an attorney, get an attorney on board to fight because they're going to be taking every dime for the next several years. So the insurance companies have a win-win in all of this by cutting hours. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Bob Bazat, Marion Township, followed by Dale Brewer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, board members. Good to see all you guys. I became aware of this situation early on when I was elected state rep. Within, a month, I was listening and hearing from victims in healthcare facilities about if this law wasn't changed or addressed in the next 6 months before it went into effect in August, that businesses would be closing their doors. And so we had many discussions with, at that time, representatives, and their feeling was, well, let this play out for 1.5 years and we'll see if that's true. Since that time, there's been over 100 businesses close their doors, small care businesses. This is a real issue, and many of these victims are in your districts. I've met with dozens in Livingston County. It's a real situation with real victims, and insurance companies and lawyers are fighting this. There's well over 200 cases right now, and there's been at least 5 or 6 that have come out and sided with the victims. And then there's an appeal process that goes up. Like, I guess we're going to have a hearing or a decision from the Supreme Court in March. But the problem we have is now every 2 years, we got to start the process again. Last session, we lost close to half of 110 representatives, much like this board. I mean, you have four brand new members on the board. So now the process starts again of re-educating the other 50 to 55 new reps that are coming in, and hearings, committee hearings, meetings with healthcare facilities, meetings with victims. But the DIFS oversees the insurance companies. And we had a hearing with them, and they came in and said they had 104 complaints and they resolved 98 of them. And those numbers didn't match up to what we were hearing. So did an FOI on it. It turns out there was 1,365 complaints and under 100 have been resolved. So we're not getting the full information. DIFS has come back, and we had a committee hearing last week, and they were testifying, and we ran out of time, so they're coming back in 2 weeks. So I have many questions to ask them. The MCCA fund has $27 billion. They've been paying into this fund for 30 or 40 or more years. And when this law became effective in July 1st of 2021, they made it retroactive. And that's the issue from 2021 moving backwards. They've made this law and applied it retroactivity. And that's not fair to the people that have paid for this and paid for catastrophic brain injury. So we're here before you today to ask for your support. And there's 47 counties that have supported this thus far, and we're still trying to get more support. But it just sends a message and it helps when counties sign on to this resolution. It helps with our arguments up in Lansing. Okay, now we've got 47. The last time we were in September, I think we had 30 or 32. So there's quite a few counties that have jumped on board. 79% of the population of Michigan's $10 million or 10 million residents are represented in those 47 counties. So it's the right thing to do. You have constituents that are suffering in your district. So I would ask you, if it doesn't come up for a vote tonight, or when it does come up for a vote, if you would please support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative.
Dale Brewer, Green Oak Township, followed by West Nakagiri.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'd like to again thank you for this opportunity. I'd also like to speak, and I ask that you do take favor and look at this resolution this evening and adopt it. It would be nice to be at least number 48 since we aren't number 1 as this goes forward. My understanding is that March the 3rd is when the Supreme Court will be hearing oral arguments on this. Granted, not everyone can get up and be part of the argument because each side only has 20 minutes, but to be able to say that 48 counties here in Michigan support the idea of at least taking action on this on this issue. I've been a caregiver for part-time so that Candy can have some relief. I've also been there on numerous occasions when Laszlo has had seizures. Had to help him with in that situation. Have even been there after a seizure when he had to go to the hospital because it was so severe. We're very fortunate because we have a group of veterans that stick together with him. We help him. We do everything that we can to make his life as normal as possible. It's really important. And again, it's really something that this county should look favorably on. You know, I can speak from my own experience that way, but there are a number of people in this county that need to be able to get this benefit and get it taken care of. There are people in this county that have not been paid a dime, even though they're entitled to their 8 hours or whatever, since last November. The insurance companies just keep putting it off and off and off. It's totally unfair. If you didn't pay your $200 for your car when you get your car insurance, you wouldn't even have this. Everyone is out here that has, they've been paying this for years along with all of their other insurance premiums. And so again, it's critical that we make and try and get some changes as this goes in. Again, I think that the Board of Commissioners, I guess it sounds like there may be a couple that have some opposition to this for some reason, but I think the importance is to get it adopted as a resolution. It carries a lot of weight, and hopefully it's like 48 counties all standing up in front of the Supreme Court, waving a flag and saying, let's treat these people fairly for the contracts that they've signed. So please look forward to that. Thank you. I'm learning Dave's sign language. We're getting close here. Thanks, Dave. Thanks for everybody.
Thank you.
The last card I have, Mr. Chair, is West Naka, Gary Hartland.
Yeah, Madam Clerk, I'm going to withdraw my request to speak at call to public. Thank you.
Okay. I have no further cards then.
Anybody on Zoom?
I don't see any, Commissioner. No, there's not.
Okay.
I move to approve the meeting minutes dated January 30th, 2023, and closed session minutes dated January 30th, 2023.
Support, Helserman.
There's a move to approve and support. Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The next item is tabled items from previous meetings. I don't believe there are any. We'll move on then to item 10. It's an open discussion on the Michigan Auto Insurance Reform Act. Did you want to speak to that? Yes, sir.
Perhaps it would be okay with the chair and the commissioners if I ask a question of people in the audience. I'd like to know what issues are not in front of the Supreme Court on March 3rd and what issues are, because there are a couple different things. Is the retroactivity the only issue before the Supreme Court, or is the 55% or the 8 hours before the Supreme Court on March 3rd? If somebody could elaborate on which are in or not in that decision day.
Those two items.
Can you please go to the microphone?
Up to a mic, please. Thank you.
Items are on for the Supreme Court, but only for those injured before the change.
So the two items would be retroactivity
Correct.
and the 55%,
Right, for those injured prior.
but not the 8 hour that you were talking.
Yes,
Oh, that's in also?
correct.
All three of them?
Yeah, the family care.
Are at
yes,
issue that day.
correct. So what we're saying is those need to be looked at for the people injured after 2019. That's where we
And
need to
that's
change
oral
it.
argument day, right?
Correct,
Thank you.
correct.
Please.
So also just to add to that, it's our understanding the Supreme Court decision is only looking at, again, as was brought up, is affecting those that were injured before the changes. So all of the conversation topics around the 56 hours, the family care, the 55% or 45% pay cut, all of that right now is still the law of the land. And so the decision to move and change that prospectively, while it could be addressed, is also unlikely that would be viewed and discussed for those now injured potentially even today. And now it relates to their care. So the nature of the Supreme Court is only to look at those that were injured before these changes, to then address those three main components. Yeah.
Is there anyone else that wishes to discuss this issue here on the board?
So if I understand it correctly, the people before the law was changed had an agreement with their insurance company to do X. And the law, from what I understand, cannot change. I mean, maybe this is part of the decision that the court's making, that the law can retroactively reach back and change the agreement, the insurance that these people paid for, and they thought that they had, that was guaranteed in perpetuity. Okay, but the insurance companies took it that they could retroactively make the changes that were in the current law apply to the past. And is my understanding that is kind of the crux of the Supreme Court decision?
Correct.
So in my mind, it's a slam dunk to say a contract that's made before the law is changed cannot be affected by the law. In my mind, it's not even a matter of discussion. It should not even be a matter of discussion. I think everybody should agree on that. How can, just because somebody has a lot of money, doesn't mean that they can change how we do law, you know, in my mind. So I'm favorable to do whatever we can do to make that happen, you know, so.
Anybody else up here? Yes, sir, Jay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Question for Representative Bezat, if I may. In your presentation a few moments ago, you mentioned that there were approximately 1,365 people who had filed an appeal.
Well, there was 1,365 complaints that DIFs had been handling, and this was the summer of last year. Those numbers have increased since the summer of last year.
So in your mind, is a complaint the same as an appeal?
No, there's like Laszlo's files a complaint because, for instance, Laszlo needs 2 boots because he drags his foot. And they used to pay those boots at 100%. We had 8 bills to address these issues that all went away December 31st because of the new section starts, excuse me. And so now he needs 2 sets of boots every year, but they'll only pay 55%. My bill, 5,500, House Bill 5,500 addressed that specific item as what, you know, wheelchair ramps, that the law does not, it's a healthcare issue. It's not, that 55% should not apply to equipment and wheelchairs and wheelchair ramps, those type of things. They should be covered at 100%.
The reason I was asking about the appeals, we had some discussion on this topic last September.
Yep.
July, August, September. And in doing some checking, I was informed that for those 18,000 people that had been identified at that point that were affected by the change in the law, previous injuries, that there was an appeal process. If the insurance company refused to honor the commitment, the patient, if you will, could file an appeal. And I was informed that as of August last year, only 120 people had filed an appeal.
That's not correct.
And so I'm wondering, is there any update on those numbers?
That's the number. When they came and testified before the legislature, they at that time said they had 104 complaints and they'd resolved 98 of them. And I had talked to so many victims at that point that I thought those numbers don't match up. So the healthcare providers that got together and they did an FOI, and we found out, and this is over 15 months ago, that there was 1,365 complaints. So even diffs, when they testified in front of us, didn't give us accurate numbers. It was 1,365 and less than 100 had been resolved. And I guess if you have 100 companies and one company files 20 complaints, they handle that as one complaint. That's how they file it, is my understanding. But it still it misrepresents the number of complaints, the number of people that are having issues, the number of victims that are not being covered at. And the whole issue here is Representative Helserman covered is they made it retroactive, which is unfair. They paid for this coverage. And that's all we're saying. We're asking for support from the commissioners. And then we have to fight this again in the new session. We have to convince about 55 other reps through hearings and committee meetings and meetings with both sides, the insurance companies. It's a long process. We weren't able to get it to a vote on the board. And even though we took straw polls and we had 87 out of 110 state reps that support this, and if it went up on the board would vote yes for it, we could never get it up on the board for a vote. And that's on leadership. So I look at it as a fair issue. Representative, I've already got you promoted. Commissioner Helserman covered it exactly. It's a fairness issue. It's you can't make it retroactive. Out of the 200 plus cases, I bet you there's a half dozen or so cases. Washtenaw County came down with a ruling. Livingston has had a ruling, and it's gone to the Court of Appeals, and they've ruled in favor of the victims, and that's why it's at the Supreme Court. And I'm guessing we'll get a favorable ruling there. If, I'm not a betting person for the most part, but although I did lose some money on the Chiefs and.
One additional question. You mentioned several times about the changes in Lansing as a result of the November election.
Yep.
Is it too early to tell on how the sentiments on this might lie? Does it seem like there's a real possibility that something could be voted on anytime soon?
Of course, we lost a majority now, so we have to sit back and let the Democrats decide when they're going to, and we have been talking about this. We have bipartisan support, and we feel at this point, taking a straw poll, that we have the majority. It's just, when are they going to decide to move this forward? Are they going to wait till after the Supreme Court ruling, or because there are things that we can fix moving forward. There are things that 55% shouldn't address, like the things I was talking about, the wheelchair ramps and stuff like that. The law does not say they can do that, and they've applied it anyway. So there are some things that we can fix. And then if you want to go back and change the law, I think it took 6 or 8 years to get to the point where, and we're not trying to say the last legislature prior to us did anything wrong. I mean, these are unintended consequences. We're not blaming anybody. We're just saying this is an unintended consequence that we need to fix. That's simply what's going on.
Anyone else? Let me just ask a couple questions for my benefit here. I've never had to be concerned with that in my own personal life. But as many others who visit hospitals, especially our veterans hospitals, find a lot of people there whose lives have been dramatically changed by some catastrophic event in their life. And if I understand correctly, their insurance coverage used to accommodate them after something like this has taken place. And that recent legislation is taking away that benefit to the amount of perhaps 50%. Is that close? Am I anywhere near? All right. And so why are we talking about this? Well, I think that we were sent here by people who wanted us to solve problems they couldn't solve themselves. This, I think, is one of those problems. So I don't think the board has to apologize for being asked to intervene on behalf of those people. So let me just take a consensus here. Our option is to send a resolution to our state legislatures, the governor's office, and I guess the courts as well, that we're upset by what's happened and we urge them to change accordingly, pretty much. Now, based on that loosely constructed thought, I'm just going to go down here. Does anybody, who of you would feel that we should do something here, something within our authority to do? Could I start at one end?
Are you saying who should?
Should we?
Oh, yeah, I think yes. So that's, but
Roger?
vote.
Chairman, yeah, definitely, we support something.
Frank?
For sure.
This was authored by a really intelligent guy.
Sounds like your signature might have been on it.
Yes.
I'm supportive of it without question.
Okay. Jay,
I'm generally supportive, but I still have questions.
it's a good time to ask him.
I guess this would be for either Representative Bazat or Mr. Brewer. They've got 47 counties that have voted in favor of asking for reform to the legislation. And I'm wondering, out of those 47 counties, does that include the big ones like Oakland, Macomb, Wayne?
Yes, I can read the list if you'd like.
Well, I don't need the whole list, but I just was curious about the big ones.
Yeah, so we have, would you like me to come?
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah,
We cannot hear you on Zoom. If you could please go to the mic, that would be appreciated.
Question asked and answered, as my wife, the teacher, would say. Yeah, so we do have counties such as Macomb, Oakland, Wayne, Livingston, not Livingston yet, sorry. Ingham, Genesee, Kent did a letter of support. Their bylaws don't allow them to do non-binding resolutions. I hope you don't take that and run with it. As well as Muskegon, Kalamazoo, Calhoun, Grand Traverse. And so Saginaw, the list does continue.
So if Livingston County became the 48th county to support this, is that going to make a big difference?
We believe it does. Those of us in the audience and those that have participated, even I see friendly faces on Zoom who've joined. One of the things we learned over the last 2 years, myself personally, at least doing this, is that if every opportunity to engage and share something doesn't matter, certainly nothing will get done. But at the same time, by working through something and having that conversation and putting something forward, we're at least giving it an opportunity to make that difference. So by having that out there as something that this board may recommend, I think it puts us in a stronger position to support the families who are, again, desperate for some support and help. That again, to Chairman Dumas and Rep. Bazat have shared, again, the past legislature, unfortunately, by no fault of their own, weren't able to fix this predicament.
I guess that's one issue that causes me personal heartburn. Is that
Sure.
we can go on the record and support this, but it strikes me that Lansing is the problem. One way or another, Lansing.
Well, we got one guy in here that can fix that situation, so.
And he's not in a position to wave the magic wand,
Right.
And so, it's almost an exercise in futility, if you will. I'd like to see the change, believe me, I would. I sympathize tremendously with those folks that are affected, but I don't know with us passing a resolution of this sort, if it's gonna do any good.
I'd like to address you on that, please.
Okay.
You asked, would it matter if Livingston County became the 48th county, correct?
Yes.
I know some fellas sitting on this board that if people didn't get out and vote on that day, he wouldn't be sitting here if I said, oh, I'm not gonna vote today. And this one ain't gonna vote today. There'll be 10, 20, 30 people on vote. Someone's not gonna sit in that chair today, sitting over here. 48, yes. Will it help in Lansing? Of course it will. Representatives represent you, me, and everybody else in this town. I'm sorry.
No, that's all right.
I want to make sure you can hear it. So what I'm saying is, if you stand behind Livingston County representation, yes, they have to hear. But only evil can happen when good men sit and don't say a word. I spent 18 years of my life. I deployed 18 times so you can sit here and represent us. So we can get up in the morning and walk outside and be free. I have a contract with the insurance company. The state constitution says you cannot change legislative wise any standing contract.
Right.
And they did. I'm just a humble guy with a brain injury who can't remember what I did yesterday, but I know when my life's been threatened. And when I can't see the bullets coming, I'd rather go back and get shot at by those Taliban and by the other people that I dealt with in Central America, because I knew who my enemy was. Now I just see who's in Lansing. I see my enemy.
Thank you, Laszlo. Really appreciate it. Have a seat.
Thank you for your service, sir.
Well, if it's not us, who is it? You know, I was looking at the stats, the state stats, and of course, we've all seen this. Livingston County is the 10th largest county in the state. You know, I mean, we're not slouches. And so I think what we do here means something. And if this would make an impression on people who have to take a second thought at the next election, I would say, why not? It's a good thing to do. So.
Mr. Chair, can we entertain a motion at this point?
Yes, we can. One moment. We didn't get you for Nakagiri. Sorry.
You know, my position on this issue is the same for any issue that would come in front of this board, that we have a process. We go through committee before we take a vote. And we'd also have a process where if we want to, I'll say short circuit that, as I stated earlier, that it requires 2/3. So, you know, as long as we follow the process, that's fine. I wouldn't be voting in favor of having a vote tonight because I'm I want time to deliberate things. I want time to do my research. Although on an issue this complicated, I'm fearful that I'm not going to get to the level of certainty that would make me comfortable to know that I'm voting with all the facts and figures. You know, I believe we're a little bit outside of, well, maybe a lot outside of our lane. I mean, there have been many hearings in Lansing. There have been much research and here tonight, we've heard about, I don't know, 45 minutes of testimony and 45 minutes of testimony, very compelling, very moving. But I, for one, as a deliberative person, I would like to hear both sides. I mean, I think we, as a deliberative body, it is our duty to hear both sides. We are hearing one side of the story. And I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm just saying I want to hear both sides. So, you know, my perspective is that I would advocate against taking a vote on the issue tonight. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Nakagiri, if I may inquire, regarding the 2/3, is that 2/3 to bring this to a vote or 2/3 if it's motioned.
Two-thirds to put it on the agenda as a voting
As a
item.
vote.
Yeah. But you know, if it gets on the agenda, then it's majority
Majority.
of those serving,
Okay.
not six.
Mr. Chair, I move that we put it on the agenda as a voting item.
There's a motion made to put this issue on the agenda.
I support that.
And that we deal with it immediately. We don't put it later on in the agenda.
Okay. That's a roll call vote. You guys, anything else you wanted to say?
No,
Any discussion?
I second it though. Yep.
Yes, you
discussion.
did.
Yep,
Thank you
so-
very much. A roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Helserman,
Yes.
Commissioner Domas,
Yes.
Commissioner Sample,
Yes.
Commissioner Nakagiri,
No,
Commissioner Drick,
Yes.
Commissioner Deaton,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith is absent, Commissioner Fiani,
Yes.
and Commissioner Gross.
No.
You have a 6 yes, 2 no, 1 absent, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Motion carried.
Motion carries. Yeah, I was waiting for that last thing. I didn't want to interrupt you while you were on a roll. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So
Then-
I presume Commissioner Hausman, you're gonna make a motion.
Yes, if I could, I move, do we have a resolution number for this?
Well, that was gonna be my question. Is there something you were gonna reference? Is there a resolution specifically that you're gonna
Did you draft?
move?
Same one?
Well, I would move this resolution without a number to be numbered by staff at in the appropriate
Is there
number.
a copy of something that I don't have? Do you guys?
This was the resolution that was voted down October 11th, 2022 by a 2-4 and 6 against vote. Anyways, I'm entering this today. Resolution urging Michigan legislature to amend the no-fault Insurance Reform Act. It's given by the Board of Commissioners. That's my motion.
As presented?
As
As
presented,
presented.
as presented on this piece of paper.
I second that.
So there's a motion on the floor. It's been supported. Is there any further discussion?
I don't know if this talks about Livingston, this resolution to governor, Senate leaders, House leaders, Livingston County electeds, and I would, I guess I'd call it a friendly amendment, the Supreme Court, if that is, because that's really who we're dealing with at this particular point. So the further resolve says who's it going to go to, and I think that we should address the Michigan State Supreme Court because that's the immediate actor. That's my friendly amendment to my motion.
point of order, Mr. Chair. In a few meetings ago, the legal counsel opined that a friendly amendment is typically done for, spelling errors or, grammatical. This is not a spelling error. It's not grammatical. It's a substantive change to the.
Okay, so do we have a second to my original motion? But then I will amend, make a formal amendment of the motion then, not a friendly amendment, that we add the Supreme Court to the list of people who are receiving this letter.
I will second that.
Motion to amend, been supported. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Is there any discussion on the amendment?
Okay, yes, we should. Discussion, please.
The text is to the legislature. It asks the Supreme Court to do nothing. And by sending it to the Supreme Court, it will find its way into the circular file cabinet very quickly. They're not going to read it. It doesn't ask them to do anything. It would be postage wasted.
Commissioner Drake, we're having a hard time hearing you. If you could speak up a little bit, that'd be great.
Also not going to do anything because there's a pending litigation in front of them. They don't take
Okay,
letters.
okay,
You'd have to file an amicus brief after you got permission. It's not,
Okay.
there's no effect.
so if,
It's not a great idea. How's that?
okay, is that our other lawyer's opinion too? So,
Now, where does this stand?
well,
I don't.
I think we can send it to them. Whether they do anything with it is a whole nother matter. I don't know.
I think it's a good idea to send it. We never know who reads stuff that we mail.
So,
I'm sorry, Commissioner Nakagiri. Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Nakagiri.
Yeah, I would echo Commissioner Drake's sentiments, perhaps for a little bit different reason. I just think it's not appropriate for us to be lobbying a court, to lobby the Supreme Court. I just, I guess, there's a difference between lobbying a legislative body, Lansing, the State House or the State Senate or the executive branch, but the lobbying the judiciary, just my personal opinion, I just question the
I
appropriateness.
withdraw my amendment and just to send the resolution as is.
I'll withdraw my second.
Just to be clear, for my sake, then, we have a motion on the floor moved by Commissioner Helserman to adopt a resolution with the wording that was provided to me as was at my seat here. And that resolution or motion is supported by Commissioner Fiani. Okay.
I would support that. I agree with that.
Okay.
We ready for a vote on that? Is that a roll call vote?
That can be a voice vote. I will take the vote however you prefer.
Well, I'm ready for you.
Okay.
Okay.
Would you prefer a roll call vote?
No, yes, I would.
Okay. Commissioner Helserman,
Yes.
Commissioner Domas,
Here. Yes.
Commissioner Sample,
Yes.
Commissioner Nakagiri,
No,
Commissioner Dreck,
Yes.
Commissioner Deaton,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith is absent, Commissioner Fiani,
Yes.
and Commissioner Gross.
Before I announce my vote, I'd like to say that I support Commissioner Nakagiri's interest in having more time to study this, to find out if we can have a representative from the insurance group to here to explain themselves. I feel we need a lot more information. It's not that I don't trust anything at all that people have addressed to us. I think a change is warranted, but I personally feel I need more information, and so I'm going to vote no.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Okay. Now where do we stand, Madam Clerk?
We will be on item 11, reports, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. The next item is reports, and Commissioner Deaton. You've had a busy day, you've had a busy week, so I'm
Yes,
waiting
sir.
for you.
Yes, I have a lot of good news. On behalf of the board, and thank you for Chairman Domas and Vice Chair Drick for signing the retirement certificates of appreciation. One to Susan Bennett, who was 23 years with the 9/11 dispatch. So I had a really nice afternoon with her and her family and her staff. Also, we had signed one for Mr. John Waters with 30 years at EMS. And they had a really nice celebration. It was a Mexican theme. So he is moving to Mexico and he's going to continue being an EMS down in Mexico and taking his knowledge and his contracting abilities to get them some vehicles and stuff down there. So that was it was a really nice week. I also want to take a time to thank a lot of the directors from many of the different departments who opened their doors and their staff and gave me opportunity to come in. And I approached a lot of the departments as, hey, I'm a new commissioner. What can we do to help you? What can I do to stay out of your way? And kind of give us an overview of the department. And so Keisha Williams at 9/11 Dispatch, just an amazing group there. Spent most of the afternoon with them. Greg Kellogg with Let's. I spent a good few hours with that group and really understand how the bus system works. I know that we have Miss Randy coming in every week. And so I wanted to learn a little bit about the buses since I don't take them. One thing I did discover is that we have a QR code for our bus systems and I tried to use it and it didn't work. So the IT, I sat with them today and they're working on that to fix it. So I will have the QR code on my phone here shortly and I'm gonna probably take a couple bus rides to see how they work. It's pretty amazing what Greg Kellogg's doing with that department with minimal funds from Livingston County. So it is pretty impressive what we've been doing so far. And I think our constituents need to hear that, especially those who are online. I had the opportunity, Therese Cremonti, I think I even seen her online, to visit with her. She pulled me aside after I was walking through EMS. I wanted to make sure I got a chance to see what they were doing. And it's good for everybody here to see how our departments work together. It's just amazing how in seconds, the sheriff's department's working with the EMS and working with emergency, and they showed me some scenarios and stuff that's happened over the last few years. And it's just amazing, makes you feel really safe here and that our tax dollars are being put to great use. Who else did I get a chance? Dave, Faupas, he's on leave this week, but I had a great time with him. And then I'm sure one of the other commissioners can talk about what we did today. We had the Congresswoman Slotkin in town today with some money towards EMS. And it was good to see the demonstrations on some of the new gurneys that we're going to get to help save our EMS back. We have a lot of back issues with our young folks that are working out in the field. So Stryker is one of the medical device companies that was in today to show where some of that money was coming back from the federal dollars, which was our money that they're giving back to us. And we're going to put it to good use. So that's what I've been kind of doing over the last week and a half or so. So thank you.
So John, very good, John. We have 3 brand new people on the board. I'm not in that brand new category. But I got to tell you, and that's not hard to find, just some of the most talented and energetic people who are here serving the public. And Roger's one of them, Frank Sample, and then of course you've met Nick. I think we're very fortunate to have people of this caliber replacing some of the old timers when and if we decide to leave. So thank you guys, really appreciate it. Yes, sir.
I attended 2 Marion Township meetings, one in January that was overflowing at the Marion Township Hall. And even though it wasn't on the agenda, the call to the public convinced the trustees that with 150 people at their township hall, where they filled up the upstairs and they filled up the downstairs basement, they needed to have a town hall on the subject. So they adjourned the trustee meeting to, I believe, February 8th or 9th at Parker Middle School. And they had it in the cafeteria and they easily had 400 people on the floor with an extra 100 plus around the outside. And the entire town hall was on the subject of the construction of a zoning ordinance that would meet constitutional muster not to entirely 100% ban any kind of business, especially solar farms from Marion Township. And the overwhelming majority of the people that spoke for us for the solid 2 hours from 8 to 10 all said they wanted strict guardrails put up so the solar farms were safe, they did not pollute. If corporations went bankrupt, there was enough money to handle whatever problems or debris was left behind. And the sense of the Marion Township Board was that they were going to construct a very tight but constitutional zoning ordinance to protect the Marion Township property values and ecology. So they're well on their way to that goal.
Thank you, Commissioner. Also, Frank and Doug, I think you guys were out at Cohocton this afternoon.
Yeah, the townships are, it was a township supervisor meeting, and they are interested in last mile fiber. The Robin grants are coming up. Livingston County has some interest in that. And the townships are interested in what's called last mile, connecting to people's houses. The previous board decided that the county would not get into providing service for the last mile connection to houses. But most of the townships have given their ARPA funds, and some of them given them to SURF, and some have given to My Signal. And I'm not sure, those are the two that I'm aware of, to build out the last mile. And to this point, no, we decided not to put any of the county ARPA funds to last mile, only to open access loops. So that's kind of, they're just kind of telling us, what they'd like, and we're passing it on. And the new board has some decisions to make in that regard. So, and hopefully we'll be having some meetings where we can discuss our vision for the future for the county's involvement in that process. So.
Thank you, Commissioner. Sample, you were out at Cohocton, I think. You want to tell us a little bit about how that went?
Well, Doug is abundantly more up to speed on that than I am. I was asked to go out there by the Unadilla Township Supervisor, and then we just discussed their needs and where they want to land. I mean, essentially they want high-speed internet throughout their townships, and they'd like it made more available, and they're looking to whatever funds they can get awarded their way, from whatever we may have available from ARPA. That was the crux of it.
Thank you very much, all three of you, for spending your day, all four of you, for spending your day in the townships. And that's where, that's where communication is. And you did a great job. I really appreciate that. Yes, sir.
I got a small report as well. Last week, I had the privilege to attend the Hamburg Township Board meeting. Got an update on their activities. Had a conversation with their clerk, who's the gentleman that's very closely tied to their senior center. And we had discussion about utilization of our ARPA funds for senior centers. That process is moving along. There's a subcommittee been formed by the Council on Aging. And on Wednesday of this week, they will begin consideration of specific requests from the senior centers in the county for utilization of the ARPA funds. Interesting to note, I got a phone call from the lady who's in charge of the South Lyon Senior Center, which is in Oakland County, and she wanted to know if she might be able to access our ARPA funds because she has 1/4 of her membership resides in Green Oak Township, which is my area. I explained to her that there's only 6 senior centers in Livingston County, and we're pretty much committed to those. And I suggested that she refer to Oakland County for whatever assistance they could provide to her. The question of ARPA funding availability is get to be very interesting. But I had a good visit in Hamburg. Had a relationship with those folks for a long time. Was very happy to meet with Cindy Minkiewicz, who's on our Zoom this evening and regularly monitors our meetings. And so it was nice to see her again. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. You're well liked out there. Yeah, it's almost like I think they're going to put a statue up there one of these days. God, that's what they're talking about. I just thought I'd share that with you. But thank you again for all that hard work. Really appreciate it. We'll move now to.
If I may.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Wanted to dovetail into what Commissioner Deaton had talked about with the federal funding of these power lift carts, gurneys for the EMS. There was a little tidbit that was shared. Actually, the design of those carts, Livingston County is the first county to receive them. They're manufactured by Stryker, but our EMS department had a role in modifying and improving the design before it was released. I thought that was pretty awesome. And the EMS technicians allowed me to operate the old gurney and then the new one, and the new one is significantly better. I can attest with firsthand knowledge. So I also wanted to mention that I attended a meeting between the Board of Public Works, Heartland Township, regarding the septic receiving station. I would characterize the meeting as it went very well. I think there's agreement on the short-term resolution. I think the longer term, there's some higher dollar implication for the county that we need to be aware of. There is a meeting I saw online posted for the Board of Public Works tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, a special meeting. I surmise they'll be talking to the whole Board of Public Works regarding the, finalizing or reducing the agreement, the verbal agreement to writing. And so I'm planning on attending as a member of the public, and that's tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. The last thing I want to mention, I wanted to share the results of an article that I read regarding the effectiveness of masks with regards to stopping the spread of COVID. There was I'll read the title of the article, Little to No Difference, Massive Mask Meta Study Undermines Remaining COVID Mandates. This was an article from July 31st. This meta-analysis actually compiles results from, I think it's 78 studies done in numbers of countries and using the gold standard of randomized control trials, and basically concluded the little to no difference whether you had a mask or you didn't have a mask. I think that's differs from what the experts said, early on in COVID. I remember back in 2020, and October 13th of 2020, we at the Board of Commissioners had a resolution to rescind the mandatory use of mask coverings here in Livingston County buildings. That actually didn't pass. I was for it. Commissioner Helserman was on the board at the time, and he was for the rescinding of it. But it failed. I think if that resolution would have been presented in light of this huge meta study, we would have had a different result. So the moral of the story is the experts. Are there experts anymore today? I don't think so. You got to do your own homework. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Nakagiri. Thank you, Commissioner Gross. Thank you. Did I get everybody? We're going to move on now to resolutions for consideration. First resolution is 2023-02-14. It's a resolution to approve the 2023 memorandum of agreement with MSU Extension as determined by the 2023 MSU budget.
So moved, Rick. Support, Rose.
Moved and supported. Are there any questions, comments? We do have a young lady here that's going to tell us all about it. Please do.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for having me. My name is Mary Bowling. I'm the Interim District Director for Livingston County, as well as 5 other counties here in Southeast Michigan. And MSU Extension is requesting the signing of our memorandum of agreement. And it's for the same level of service that we had last year as well. When you all signed that memorandum, it includes 4-H, nutrition programs, parenting programs, programs that are available to every citizen here in Livingston County. So.
Anyone have any questions for the young lady? That's what happens when you do your job perfectly. Nobody.
Well, thank you for calling me young.
Okay, well, thank you so much. We need. Yeah. All those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Next is 2023-02-5015. It's a resolution reverting to 40 hours for the maintenance mechanic facility services. Kevin? Good to see you.
Resolution.
Second,
Moved and supported.
second, Piani.
Kevin?
Good evening. Aside from the resolution, I'd like to welcome everyone to come over and see the facilities operation. Commissioner Deaton did stop by the other morning, but he also brought donuts. So just putting it out there. The crew really appreciated it. Thank you, Commissioner. So this resolution before you tonight stems from a previous resolution from 2021, which was reorganizing a full-time mechanic position to revert to 30 hours. They're looking towards retirement. So that resolution specified that it would need to be revisited in 2 years. That would have been May of 23. I'm bringing this to you now because that employee has decided to retire in March. So in order to revert this back to a full 40-hour position as it was originally designed for, I will need board approval so it can get posted. Happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions for Mr. Eggleston? Call the vote. All those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? You did it.
Thank you.
Did it again. Next, the resolution 2023-02-016. It's a resolution authorizing the 2023 software and maintenance services renewal with Central Square and State of Michigan. Judicial Information Services to provide.
Discussion.
Okay, moved for discussion. Is there support?
Support, Helserman.
Okay, with Commissioner?
Sure.
You move it for discussion. All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? You're on.
Chairman Noyes, I believe it was, although it was moved for discussion, the intent was to move the resolution for approval. And with that being the case, it's been supported. And if I'm correct, our vote was to approve this motion. Does anybody object to my interpretation of that?
No.
I would, we normally have discussion first
I understand.
for the opportunity for discussion.
Yes. I'm sorry.
We were just a little excited. So.
Software
renewals are not that exciting.
So, I guess let the discussion commence.
Thank you, Commissioners. This is an annual renewal for the Judicial Information System software that is a case management system for the Livingston County Courts. It is also a renewal for the Central Square software, which is the consolidated software that all public safety entities in Livingston County operate on. This is pretty standard here. The judicial information systems have been providing services to Livingston County since the 1980s. And we've had the Central Square platform in place in a variety of different forms since about 2008. So if there are any further questions on that, I'm happy to answer any questions from the board.
Commissioner Nakagiri.
Just want to confirm, this was already in the budget, correct?
That is correct, sir.
All right, thank you.
You're on, Commissioner.
When we discussed this resolution at general government, I asked a question concerning the documentation that we received from the Supreme Court administrative offices. And it had to do with the dollar amounts for the state of Michigan JIS system covered district court, circuit court, probate court. And the calculation that was provided by the state referenced caseload. And I had the question what the time frame was for those counts. The question couldn't be answered at the time, but Ms. Greger came to me afterwards and said it was 2017 through 2019. There has not been an update since then due to pandemic related issues. So the formula followed by the state is the latest and greatest information available. So I just wanted to bring up that clarification for what it's worth.
Thank you, Commissioner Gross.
Yes, sir, Chair.
Okay, do you feel, because you have in your control many different pieces of software, and do you believe that this software is updating as well as could be expected? How do you rate the updating of this against other updating of other platforms that we use?
To be absolutely honest with you, Commissioner Hauserman, these two platforms in particular need some work. Unfortunately, JIS is a system that is basically put in place by the state Supreme Court, and we are forced to march along to their tune on this. Recently, I have had a meeting with states or JIS individuals, and I am awaiting a meeting to discuss those kinds of topics with the state Supreme Court's chief information officer, so we can have a honest and open discussion.
Just don't give away any of our top programmers to them, please.
That will not happen. Central Square, the platform has been in place since 2008. That software is getting a little bit old. We are probably going to be looking at a replacement for that in the upcoming years, but both of these software systems are very expensive. There's a good solid amount of due diligence that will have to be done on both of these if we consider changing that, and it will be a very high budgetary impact. So we're approaching them both very cautiously. I hope that answers your question, sir.
Thank you. Yeah.
there anyone else? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Thank you, Commissioners.
You're welcome. The next resolution is 2023-02-017. It's a resolution authorizing the purchase of a leased 2020 Dodge Durango from Enterprise Fleet Management for transfer to the MMRMA insurance car pool.
So moved, Biani.
Support sample.
Moved and supported. Is there any discussion? Yes, sir.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm here to talk about carpool, but I just wanted to say thank you to Commissioner Deaton for coming to see us. Had a great discussion. Like facilities, he brought us donuts, so that always goes over very well. Kind of setting the bar now, Commissioner. So happy to report that QR code is fixed. I got a note from Adam during this meeting that their IT or their tech support had reached out and said it was fixed. So, we have that QR code plastered on buses, in brochures everywhere, and I had not heard anything. Nobody had heard anything about that. It figures it would be a county commissioner going to download the app who has the problem. So appreciate you bringing that to our attention. It's fixed now, so give it another shot if you would. So thank you. And I also wanted to, like Kevin, extend the offer to all commissioners, in particular our newer commissioners, to come visit us at Let's and Carpool. But y'all are, I think most of our current commissioners, all of you have been down to our place, but you're welcome anytime. Doors always open. So now to the resolution. So this is kind of a standard process we've had to go through since partnering with Enterprise to lease our vehicles. When a vehicle is totaled, in this case, a sheriff's patrol vehicle, we have to, in order to turn the totaled vehicle over to MMRMA, they organize a salvage auction, and the winning bidder obviously gets it. So in order to turn the vehicle over to MMRMA, to give to the sell to the high bidder, we have to first purchase it, because right now those lease vehicles are all titled in the name of Enterprise Fleet Management. So this is doing just that. And to clarify a little bit, what the other option is would be to, if we did not purchase it, we could give the lease back to Enterprise and have them sell it. Although it's impossible. They won't, give me any kind of estimate on what that price would be, what their, selling price would be. So it's just because the used or salvage market is so volatile and variable. So it's just more of a sure thing, a safer option to go with what we know here. And frankly, for a 2020, totaled out vehicle, and this one is in pretty bad shape. I can't see that it would be much worth much more than that. And certainly, I don't think worth the risk of not taking what we know here. So, that is about it. Again, the remaining salvage proceeds after we pay off that lease amount that's due, $15,232. After we pay that, then the remainder will go towards the replacement lease to reduce the lease payments. That's about it. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Anyone? I'm sorry, Jim.
The information that was given to us today, the invoice from Ford Service.
That's to the next one, Commissioner, the next resolution.
Yeah, $7,900. That would be what, a repair bill?
Yes, but that's not for this resolution. It's for the following resolution.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? And we can vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The next resolution is 2023-02-018. It's a resolution authorizing an additional 2023 vehicle replacement lease for Sheriff's Field Services Division the carpool.
So move Helserman.
Anybody else?
Support.
It's been moved and supported.
Yes, so now to the repair bill. So this is what I'm requesting is a replacement for a county-owned carpool vehicle that was under the old carpool capital replacement program. This is a 2018 Chevy Traverse, over 100,000 miles. So it's 5 years old or so, and we did not budget to replace it this year. Likely would have next year anyway, given the mileage. But at this point, you saw the repair bill. It's about $8,000. We had the exact same vehicle that was still under warranty. It was a different Traverse in the sheriff's department. Had this exact same issue, needed an engine replacement, and had that done under warranty. But this one has exceeded the powertrain warranty. So at this point, we can sink $8,000 into a 5-year-old vehicle with 100,000 miles, or just move up the replacement to this year. And I'm working with Enterprise to identify a replacement, something similarly sized and priced. And the estimated annual lease cost I noted on the resolution is based on a existing lease for a 2023 Explorer. So that's not the exact price likely, but it's going to be somewhere around there. So that's what we're proposing to replace this with. And as for a budget amendment, as noted at general government, had the language in there if it's needed. Sheriff Field Services has about a $900,000 auto leasing budget. So there's a good chance that that we won't need that amendment, but just in the event that it is needed, I put the language in there. So any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Yes, sir, Jim. Greg, I have a question I failed to ask at general government. I apologize, but we're replacing this vehicle because of a terminal engine problem.
Correct.
Would there have been any way that a year ago or 2 years ago, we would have known that the engine was not functioning properly, that we could have perhaps done a repair at that point? I guess I'm wondering what's the process of monitoring the performance of the vehicles?
Yeah, so for something like this, it came on rather quickly. I believe that the one that had the engine replacement was just a couple months ago. So it's not as if this has been happening for months and months. It's sort of recent development. That other Traverse went in, and then shortly after the department got that back, this one started to have the same oil consumption issue. Oil consumption is a slow, it usually starts out slow, then it consumes more oil as the problem develops. So it just sort of got to the point where there was concern. They took it into Maxi, did a compression check too, and the compression was low on one cylinder. So that's just something that probably you don't normally do as part of an inspection when you go in for an oil change. Or usually has to be something that would, the tech would lead them to think that there's a problem with the engine. So to answer the question, no, we didn't know about it before recently.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
And what was the
Yes, sir.
mileage?
It's over 100,000, slightly. I don't have the exact number. I mean, it's within 2,000-3,000
Why did
over.
Chevy put it under their warranty?
Powertrain on those, I believe, is 100,000.
Not an exact number. It never was.
Well,
You can always twist their arm.
Commissioner, I know what you're saying. I'm not 100% sure that is the powertrain warranties are different vehicle by vehicle and manufacturer by manufacturer. So I'm not positive that that's what it was. I know that the dealer, Chevy dealer, said it was out of warranty. So we did try to pursue it, but it's well enough over that threshold that they were not willing to honor it. So.
And It was an oil compression problem?
It was a compression test. There was oil consumption, meaning the engine was using oil or burning oil in between oil changes. And that just got worse, starts out usually uses a little bit, half a quart, then maybe a quart between oil changes, then it progresses and uses more and more. And that eventually got bad enough that they did a compression check and the compression was low, which is it suggests something fatal. So,
And who is going to charge us $8,000 to put in an engine?
that's our vendor, our contracted vendor, Bob Maxey. That's on a new vehicle, that's not unreasonable, I don't think. We've seen them recently and, in that range, in buses, for example. So I think it's consistent with others that we've done.
And the lease will be another Chevy.
Yeah, well, it'll be an American vehicle. I don't know if it'll be a Chevy. What we're looking at is possibly explore Durango or sort of a commercial version of a Tahoe, not a police interceptor. So could be a Chevy, but it could be a Dodge too.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Yes, Jay.
If there's no other questions from commissioners, I have an additional one.
Yes, sir.
I apologize, Greg, but I see Sheriff Murphy is here. I guess my question should be directed to him more so. With our driver assigned vehicle program, are our deputies given any words of wisdom with respect to monitoring the performance of their vehicles? Any potential engine problems?
Real quick, while he's sitting down, this is not a patrol vehicle. It's a lieutenant's vehicle.
Yeah, this is an admin car and it's not a police package. It's just a grocery getter. So that's part of it, but we've not had the DAV program long enough to realize the potential gains that we think we're going to see as far as maintenance and stuff. But the guys will take much better care of their own stuff for sure when they're not sharing it. So the longevity will be there. There's no question.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Anyone else? There no one else, we'll take a vote. All those in-
Mr. Chair, this one
Yes.
does have a budget amendment, so we will need to
So,
roll call this
it'll
one,
be
and
a
I
roll call vote. Thank
apologize.
you,
That
Madam
was
Clerk.
not on the. Commissioner Helserman,
Yes.
Commissioner Domas.
Yes.
Commissioner Sample,
Yes.
Commissioner Nakagiri,
Yes.
Commissioner Dreck,
Yes.
Commissioner Deaton,
Yes.
Commissioner Fiani,
Yes.
Commissioner Gross,
Yes.
and Commissioner Smith is absent. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, commissioners.
The next resolution is 2023-02-019. It's a resolution establishing uniform procedure for nominating and selecting citizens for board committee appointed positions. Comes from the Board of Commissioners. I briefly glanced at this resolution and I had some questions on it. And I would like to add some changes, or at least consider some changes. If it please the board, I would like to have this returned to its committee where we can review it. Well, I'll have an opportunity to add some suggestions that I might have and let them run the test of the committee. So without objection, we will postpone this resolution.
You're reassigning it to the Personnel Committee,
Yes, sir.
so you don't need to postpone it then.
All right.
Just reassign.
Okay. Without objection, it will be reassigned to the Personnel Committee. We'll then move on to. Somebody said, oh, I'm sorry.
No, I'm good.
Okay. Without, we will now move on to the closed session. And
I move that the board move into a closed session for the purpose of collective bargaining negotiations and the consideration of purchase of real property.
Second, Trick.
thank you. Been moved and supported. This will take a roll call vote.
Commissioner Fiani,
Yes.
Commissioner Gross,
Yes.
Commissioner Helserman,
Yes.
Commissioner Domas,
Yes.
Commissioner Sample,
Yes.
Commissioner Nakagiri.
Yes.
Commissioner Drick.
Yes.
Commissioner Deaton.
Yes.
Commissioner Smith is absent. Motion carries.
Okay.
Just 1 second, please, Commissioner, so I can put everybody in the waiting room.
The agenda. The next item on the agenda. Item 14. Where did I find the agenda? Here we go. Item 14. Item 14. Resolutions for consideration. Proposal 2023-02-020. Resolution approving the tentative agreement for the 3-year agreement between Livingston County Sheriff's Department and the Livingston County Board of Commissioners and the Livingston County Deputy Sheriff's Association representing deputies, corrections officers, and detectives.
Move the resolution, Nakagiri.
Second, Drick.
Moved and seconded. Anybody? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Way too long.
We have a deal.
I got him.
You got him?
I'm gonna grab your signature.
Just don't take my car.
Mr. Chairman, I move to authorize the county administrator to submit a bid consistent with staff's recommendation for certain real property with the terms of the purchase agreement, subject to the final approval of the Board of Commissioners.
Second.
Been moved and supported. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
Okay, you may wind up being a hero.
I move to approve the accounts payable reports, claims dated February 13th, 2023. Payables dated January 21st through February 3rd, 2023.
Support, Gross.
Moved and supported. Are there any thoughts? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? We have, yeah, one more time, call to the public. The next item is the agenda, is the adjournment.
So move, Helserman.
Yeah.
Second, Fiani.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We can go home. So long. Well.